Namaste to all of you. A very warm welcome to this evening's call. We are very happy that we have done more than 55 calls since the lockdown started. And we have had a very distinguished panel of speakers who had come and graced our platform. It was a wonderful experience. Yesterday, we also had a live demonstration of Agnihotra exactly at the time of sunset. We've had some people coming from almost all verticals of intellectual spheres. You know, could be strategic affairs, could be economy, could be history, could be politics. You know, so many fields we were graced with. We thank all the speakers, and we also thank all of you who have been very supportively coming into our calls and then encouraging us in what we are doing. Friends, before I introduce today's topic and the eminent speaker, Professor Dr. Vasant Shinde ji, just a couple of minutes on Pragya Bharati. For those of you who are new to this particular platform or who are new to our organization. Friends, Pragya Bharati is an organization which was founded about 28 years back by 5 eminent intellectuals. Dr. Tripuraneni Hanuman Chaudhary ji is a Padma Shri awardee. He is our chairman. And then Ram Madhav ji, who is currently the BJP National General Secretary. And D.S. Sharma ji. And then Vakati Panduranga Garu and Harihara Sharma Garu. These 2 eminent people are no more with us. These are the 5 people who founded Pragya Bharati 28 years back. The main aim of Pragya Bharati was to bring nationalistic spirit among intellectuals. The sad part of it is intellectualism was completely hijacked by the so-called liberals. They call themselves liberals, but they are actually illiberal. It was a one-sided narrative which was getting hijacked. So a nationalistic voice has to be heard, and then a counter narrative for these voices of the leftists has to be produced. That was the aim with which Pragya Bharati started. And it's been a 28-year experience for Pragya Bharati. We also run a magazine called Bharatiya Pragya. This has been run for the past 20 years. We conduct conferences, seminars, workshops, and roundtables, and so many other activities we do in this direction. We also provide content to the people who are in the activism roles, the nationalistic activism roles, but they may not have the content to counter certain leftist propaganda. So we do provide them with content to stand up to their challenges in their activism. Friends, please do like and subscribe to our channels, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. As you all know, when there is a negative campaign that is being done by the leftists and their cabal or the anti-national forces, it gets viral in no time. They produce some fake news and then they take it viral. The unfortunate part is we, the nationalists and who are supportive of the Bharat's glory, we do not actively do these things. Problem is not with the small bunch of people who are against this nation or against the glory of Bharat, but the problem is with the silent majority who are good people who do nothing. So we sincerely request all of you to kindly like and subscribe to our assets, and then collectively let's all fight for the glory of Bharat. Friends, today I am very glad and honored to have Professor Vasant Shinde ji as our distinguished guest speaker today. Shinde ji is not new to Pragya Bharati. He was one of the eminent speakers in a conference we had organized on 7th of December on Aryan Invasion Theory. Friends, he was, at that time, he was the, Vice-Chancellor of Deccan College, Pune. He's a distinguished archaeologist, and to his credit, he has so many archaeological finds and so much of volume of work that he has done. But in the recent past, he is more recognized across the country and across the intellectual field for the works that he has produced on Rakhigarhi. Rakhigarhi is a site associated with the Harappan civilization or the Mohenjo-daro Harappan civilization. Rightfully, it should have been called Sindhu Saraswati civilization. So Rakhigarhi is a site near in Haryana. Unfortunately, most of the sites, when the DNA is extracted, it gets contaminated. But the team under Shinde was successful to extract the DNA from the skeletal remains of Rakhigarhi, and his findings were sensational because earlier we didn't have that kind of a findings. So his findings have actually been used by the leftist historians to confirm the Aryan Invasion Theory, saying that the report actually confirms the Aryan invasion. However, Shindeji himself, in several forums, in several of his talks, including the one he did with Pragya Bharati, really clearly put the record straight and said the DNA does not have any lineage from the Central Asia or the steppes from where these people are supposed to have come. Today, he's not going to talk about Rakhigarhi per se. Maybe during the course of his talk, he may refer to it, but he's going to talk about the volume of work he has done in the last 35 years in certain field. So all these sites, are they associated with our Vedic culture or not? This is a big question mark. The fireplaces that are found in the archaeological finds of Harappa, Mohenjo-daro and all these sites, the leftist historians call that as a fireplace, as warm heating places, whereas they're Yagnagundas. There are lots of controversy. It's the same thing, but how do you interpret makes the whole narrative different. Shindeji has been there. He's known it. He's a very, very knowledgeable and a respectable figure in the whole country. His videos are viral. All of you would have seen some of his videos on YouTube and elsewhere. So we are so happy to have him here with us on this call today. Friends, we also have Professor Sudarshan Rao-ji. I fondly call him History Uncle. We are all part of the same Guru family. We belong to the same Guruji. We have a common Guruji. And we are related as well. And he is, as you all know, he was former chairman of ICHR, Indian Council for Historical Research. And he was a professor of history in Kakatiya University. And while he was the ICHR chairman, he brought in some significant amount of changes administratively and otherwise, which were trying to be introduced for a long time. It is unfortunate that the politics of Delhi were such that some of the proposals he had given actually didn't go through. Had they been actually accepted, we would have been in a different place altogether. There is a huge amount of lobby that works in history, archaeology, culture. But he was one who stood out. He put his neck out and he said, Ramayana and Mahabharata are history. They are not mythology. So a certain controversy also erupted, and some discussions happened on the TV against his statement. But we are proud of Sudarshan Uncle for having made such a statement. Sudarshan ji, please, you can speak for some time and then we will ask Shinde ji to start his talk.
So thank you, Giridhar. Giridhar is my very young friend and young member of our family, very active, and has always been on the so many things. He also moves people like me to come forward. He's such an activist, makes others to become active. I'm very happy that today I'm associated with this on this platform. Professor Shinde ji is here as main speaker. And in the first of all, I should say that, he has been on the forefront on various archaeological finds that have come up during the past 20 years. I know that the present controversy is mostly because of the interpretations on ancient India and what has grown as the controversies have been growing right from 1920s, and they are still continuing. It's almost 100 years that the first impressions on what we have found in India have been being interpreted in so many ways And mostly, now Bharat culture he has to face a defensive role because, they have to show the material evidences for their past glory. That's the way that, we have been depending on the archaeologists for giving us the enough strength to us theories and also to our interpretations. And Shindeji has been very active in this area, and he is well-known worldwide. He is known, very well known as a very senior archaeologist. And in Deccan College, his contribution is very immense. And most of his students have spread throughout India and also outside. And they have been working together as a team because he has made a team by himself. Being the team leader, he has built up so many things. In Deccan College also, it has been very active. Deccan College has been very active since a long day times because all the famous archaeologists have come from there. And that's how Indian history has got some strength from the archaeological finds, and the Deccan College has been at the center of that. And Shindeji has been working on these so many things. And from the ICHR, I think we have been known to each other, particularly in the excavations that they have started at that time in Rakhigarhi. And I was very happy to associate myself with him in the way that when he asked for some grant, I think we were very happy to associate with him. And it was really, these finds, are giving us a wonderful idea that the culture is not just a Sindh culture, because Sindh is a region, now generally is known as Sindh region, that is not in India, not in Bharat. The region is in Pakistan now. So the name India that we got from Sindh region has become a misnomenclature now. But in our constitution, we said, India, that is Bharat. So the constitution has resolved by itself that we should be called ourselves as Bharat. So that way, this Bharat culture, which is known to us that at least, some 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 years ago. And we do not know the exact chronological order in which the culture has developed. And the dharma and shastras have to be identified. And how this archaeology would help us in certain issues. So in this area, we need more and more archaeologists like Shindeji to work on these issues and then make a wonderful workout on the past Indian history, which was earlier Bharatiya culture or Bharat country. And of course, the region could have been very wide at the time, or taking from Central Asia down to Indonesia. But how this has come together at one time and how they have gone astray in the course of time. So all these things have to be told to us by the archaeologists. We depend on them for their work, for their sincere work. And we want the kin of Shindeji to grow much so that, we will get better ideas on Bharat and Bharatiya culture in the years to come. Thank you, Shindeji. I welcome you. I welcome you to this. And over to Giridhar.
Yes, sir. Over to Shindeji. Sir, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you very much, Giridharji. I really am thankful to you for organizing this. I will not call this a lecture. In fact, this is a talk, discussion, because I was not prepared for this talk today. But I thought I should talk to all of you. And I also thank Sudarshan Raoji because we are very close friends, and we have mutual respect for each other. And we know that how we have to take forward this particular discipline. Now I'm going to talk about the Vedic culture today. But before that, as Sudarshan Raoji and also Girdharji has mentioned that there are a lot of vexing problems in Indian history, and some of the issues have been distorted. And I'm going to speak about this, the distortion of the history that is done by some of the scholars, either intentionally or unintentionally. I welcome all the speakers, all the participants, because I know that there are many people who have no background about the subject, and therefore I'm going to put it very simple in very simple language. Now, first, let me tell you that we had a bad experience being a historian archaeologist. People always think that that this discipline is not really important. Why should we study history or archaeology? History and archaeology, of course, they have the two sides of the coin, because both of them deal with the ancient period. We try to write the history of the ancient period. I had a bad experience, in fact. Let me begin with that experience. In 2012, I was excavating a site in Haryana. And generally, when we go for the excavation, let me explain you what is site first, archaeological site. A site is a place, where we find the traces of human activities. And here, we get maximum data for writing history for a period, for which there is no written records, or even for the period for which there is written records. So, general belief among the people in the villages is that these people have come here to dig out the treasure, in fact, the wealth that is buried here. So that is, one, misunderstanding among the people. And, when we had some very prestigious guest on our excavation on one day, and the guest, was in the form of the former Prime Minister's daughter, Professor Upinder Singh, who was a professor in Delhi University, a history professor. And with her, being a daughter of the Prime Minister, there were IPS and IS officers. And this, I was showing the remains to her and to her students. And I was hearing, in fact, in the background, there were some people who were murmuring. I heard one comment that somebody said that what a waste of the national wealth, because, this work is of no use. This is non-productive for the country. Then somebody said that maybe there is some wealth buried here. They want to dig out. And one very important, comment came. I don't know who made the comment. Somebody said that perhaps these people did not get an opportunity to work in the dust or to play in the dust when they were children. They are playing now. Now, these are the, this is the unfortunate part, that people have no understanding about our history. They have no respect for the history. And therefore, one of our aims now is to take this history to almost every home. And then, we can, make awareness among the people about the importance of the history archaeology, about the relevance of history and archaeology, and what are the factors, which are the facets, which continue till today. So this is what, we want to do. And we want to really, do this outreach program on very large scale. So that's what, we have started doing. Then Professor Sudarshan Rao has mentioned about some issues. One of the vexing issues, in fact, in history is the Vedic culture. And it was believed that this Vedic culture was developed by people coming from outside, maybe from the steppe region, or maybe from the Middle East, or maybe from the eastern part of Europe, like that. But most of the hypotheses about the Aryan maybe invasion or migration, they were based on textual data. But in text also, there is no clear mention about the word Aryan is not mentioned. Arya is mentioned in part. And Arya is probably was used as a respectable word, not for any community or any, any, tribe. So later, in fact, when, Max Muller, in fact, made this issue, he thought that Arya, and he made Aryan out of this Arya. And he thought that, these are the people who must have come from outside. Because according to him, and, maybe subsequent scholars, even historians even today, they believe that, that people came from outside. The Vedic people, these Aryans came from outside. They wrote, Vedas, and they established the civilization culture in this part of the world. And their contention was that perhaps the local people here were not capable of doing all these different developments that I mentioned. And therefore, it was believed that, people came from outside and they began, maybe the important cultural and the civilization development here. Now, we have not really reacted to this. It is not really good to react to this type of issues, because unless you have to respond. So unless you create a data and, you go and argue with these people with the data, then only, you are, going to stand in the competition. And that is what, we have done. In fact, we have not really reacted to all these issues unless we have, proper positive data. So we have not done that. And unfortunately, the historians and the archaeologists, they should have come together and work on some common issues. But they are fragmented. Both the communities are fragmented. I remember, being an archaeologist, I keep excavating a number of sites. And when I go to, any excavation, I always, make sure that, I keep informing my maybe history friends. But unfortunately, no history, person will come and, observe our work, that what kind of work we are doing. And the same is the case with archaeologists also. They think that, the historians write history on the basis of textual data. And there is, there's a lot of exaggeration in the textual data. And therefore, we cannot really use this type of textual data. So that type of understanding is there. And therefore, this history has not really, progressed for last many years. The history which I learned, I taught the same history to my students. My students are teaching the same history to their students. So there is not much, maybe history is not really becoming exciting as it should have been. And I will tell you that, some of the important developments which we should have really carried forward. The history writing started, in fact, after the establishment of the Asiatic Society. And Sir William Jones, who established this Asiatic Society, there is so much to learn from this William Jones. He was an administrator. He came from England, and he was, looking after the affairs of the East India Company. And he realized after coming here that if you want to really effectively rule these people here, then one must learn their language and one must also understand their culture. So he started studying this. He started studying Sanskrit. And let me tell you that, friends, that he became a very well-known Sanskrit Pandit. He attained so much knowledge about the subject. And then, of course, for studying the Indian culture, Indian history, he established systematically, of course, studying this. He established this Asiatic Society in 1784. And after that only, we started writing history. There was one very important research methodology which was introduced by one Sir Alexander Cunningham. Now, Alexander Cunningham was the first Director General of the Archaeological Survey of India. But before he became Director General, he introduced a very, very important research methodology in the Indian subcontinent. What he did, in fact, he studied some of the Buddhist literature, also studied the foreign travelers' account, and he noted down the places mentioned in the text, in the literature, in the foreign travelers' account. And he actually discovered the sites, where these places are today. He discovered them. And that is how, showed that this is how we can discover, the ancient sites. So this was a very good example that he set forth in the Indian subcontinent. And then, of course, it was not, this particular method was not really rigorously followed by historians and archaeologists in the country. But then there is a very important development that took place in the mid of 20th century, in around 1950s. All of you know Professor B.B. Lal. He has just entered in 100 years, and he's still, very healthy and kicking. He's still very active. And Professor B.B. Lal, he's always associated with Ayodhya issue, wrongly, of course. But in 1950s itself, he formulated the project called Mahabharat Project. And his approach was really good. What he did, in fact, he also, like, Cunningham, he made a list of the sites mentioned in the Mahabharata text. Sites like Hastinapur, for example. Today, of course, Hastinapur is there by the same name. Then there is a site called Vice-Chancellor. All these, most of the sites are in Ganga plain. Then Ayodhya and Indraprastha. The Purana Kila area of Delhi was known as Indraprastha, old Indraprastha. So he made a list of some of the, well-known sites mentioned in the text. And then he, of course, actually carried out the excavations at all the sites, because he wanted, unless you have archaeological data for Mahabharat, nobody is going to accept that. There is a mention, of course, in the text, but we need to have proper archaeological data to establish the fact. And it was not there, so he wanted to generate this data. So he carried out excavations at all these 4 important sites. So he himself excavated at Hastinapur, Ayodhya, and Indraprastha. And one Dr. K.N. Dixit, he excavated the site of Aichatra. Now, what he found, his approach is really, very important. And this is how, one should really, if you really want to understand or understand the authentic history, this type of approach needs to be followed. So what he did, he tried to study the cultural sequence of all the sites. And at all the sites, he found one culture which was very common. The other cultures were not really common at all the sites. But there is a culture called painted graver culture. This is a term given by archaeologists, painted graver, because this culture is identified on account of its very distinct ceramic, the painted ceramic, which is grey in color. And he thought that perhaps, since all these sites have the same face, he thought this is the culture representing Mahabharat period. But then, then there was some criticism, because in the textual, in the literature, there's a mention about, huge empires. Then there is a mention about, palaces, mention about, maybe very, big offensive and defensive, armory and weaponry. And in this period, one really does not come across this type of evidence. The painted graver is the first or the earliest iron using culture in North India. And it is contemporary to the iron using culture in South India. The iron using culture in South India is called the Meghati culture. And it begins from 1200 BC. So initially he thought that, this is the culture which represents Mahabharat. But later he had to, withdraw his statements, because, the evidence was not really matching with the description given in the text. And this culture was very poor. In fact, the people used to live in circular huts. Very few, maybe small iron implements were found. A lot of pottery was found. Maybe little evidence of jewelry in the form of some beads, either stone beads or glass beads. But not much evidence, in fact, does not really indicate that, flourishing phase that is mentioned, in fact, in the text. So this, maybe he did not succeed, in fact, but the methodology that he introduced was very important. And then, of course, in 80s, there was a very important development. And that should have been really followed, on a very extensive, large scale in the country, which unfortunately is not done. R.S. Sharma. Now, he had inclination, in fact, now he had maybe leftist thinking, but he was more maybe balanced scholar. And he suggested one very important research methodology, which is still relevant, in the country. What it did, in fact, now all of us know that in the history books, we read that in the Gupta Empire or the Gupta phase in the early Indian history is considered to be the golden age. Now, on what basis, this particular history was reconstructed? Mainly on the basis of literary records or the textual records. And in the text, it is mentioned that there were a lot of developments taking place, developments in art and architecture, developments in literary field, and also maybe developments in various spheres of life. So that is mentioned in fact in the text. Secondly, some of the Gupta rulers like Samudragupta, now he issued golden coins. So scholars thought that because it is a golden age, we find gold coins. But later, in fact, this R.S. Sharma, Ram Sharan Sharma, now he studied both the archaeological sources as well as literary sources, and he synthesized this for the first time. Nobody did this type of synthesis. And therefore, I always say that archaeologists and historians should work together, and they need to really discuss their data, their evidence side by side, and then only perhaps we'll be able to bring out a proper or the true history of the country. So what he did, in fact, he studied, he rather used the archaeological data. There are a lot of sites, Gupta sites in North India, particularly in the Ganga plain, which have been excavated. And we have a lot of data from these. So he studied one by one different aspects, which are revealed by the archaeological data. So he studied further settlements, and he compared the Kushan period and the Gupta period, and he found that there are large number of Kushan sites in North India, whereas the number of Gupta site is very, very small. So there, he started raising the question, is it a sign of a golden age? If it is a golden age, then that should have reflected in large number of big and small settlements in the Ganga plain, which is not there. It is there, in fact, in the Kushan period, but not in the Gupta period. So that is, very, very important, synthesis he did. Then he noticed that most of the Gupta sites, though they are small in number, they are located on top of the Kushan levels. We hardly find a separate single Gupta period site in North India. Very rarely. So most of the sites are on top of the maybe Kushan levels. And Gupta people knew that they have established their settlement on top of the earlier settlement. So what they did, in fact, the evidence that we have from the Kushan level is very important. We have large number of structures, very big structures, very well planned structures in Kushan levels. They have developed their own building material. They have they have developed their own brick size, the burnt brick size that was used by the Kushan period. Then he studied, we have a lot of other material, their jewelry, ornaments, etc., and other fields, coins and all this. So he found that the Kushan period is very, very prosperous, and that was reflected in the archaeological data. In the Gupta levels, he found very flimsy structures, not really very well made large structures. Secondly, what was surprising that the Gupta people have not developed their own building material. what they did that they knew that there were structures below. So they dug, in the lower levels and took out the Kushan bricks from the Kushan structures, whatever, remains were there. And they used this maybe bricks from the Kushan levels to build their own structures. And also, in the other material remains also, their jewelry is not that, not that rich. The terracotta art is not that rich compared to the Kushan. And overall, we do not find that maybe golden reflection impact in the material culture. So this he could, he could find out because, he could synthesize the archaeological and the literary sources, which is not really done in fact in the country. This is really required if you really want to understand the, the true history. And finally, he comes to the conclusion that Gupta age was not the golden age in ancient Indian history. If at all there was a golden age, it should have been Kushan age, not Gupta age. So many scholars may not agree with his conclusions. Always, there are some scholars who always raise doubts. But a very, very important research methodology which was introduced, and that should have been followed. In fact, that should be followed in the country. In fact, I did one excavation of the early site, Satwan site, near Pune, a place called Junnar. And again, the Satwan history was written on the basis of the records. And it, gave us, very rosy picture of that particular period. Because most of the written records were created on behalf of the rulers, the kings or queens. And they will not really write anything which is against their rule. And these records do not reflect the history of the common people. So if you really want to understand the history of the common people, then you need to go back to the archaeological sites. And that is how, we work in fact. But, this type of really synthesis is really required. And perhaps then only perhaps we can collect our history properly. Then I'm coming to the very
I think there seems to be a problem. We'll wait for him to come back. No problem. Yeah, that's
so now I will discuss
technology for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I will discuss about the most important issue. Now, earlier scholars thought that the Aryans came from outside, and maybe around 2000 BC, and these are the people who established the Vedic civilization or Vedic culture. There are different dates given by different scholars about the Vedic literature which was written. Now, Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak, now he studied the Vedic literature and he placed this at around 6000 BC. Now, let me tell you what was the situation around 6000 BC in the country. Now, major part of India was in the hunting gathering stage. Only in the northwest part of the country where, the agriculture began and, very, very, on very small scale. And the Ganga plain, where the agriculture was introduced around 6000 BC. There are two very important sites. One is the site of Mehergarh, where we can see the beginning of, maybe agriculture. And then, of course, there are different stages of development there. And there is a site called Lahura Deva in the mid-Ganga basin, not very far from Gorakhpur. And that site also has the evidence of maybe early farming communities going back to almost 6000 or 6500 BC. So these people certainly have not really written Vedas, certainly, because the major part of Indian subcontinent was in hunting gathering stage. Then, of course, now there are some scholars who believe that perhaps the Vedic literature was written around 3000 BC. It makes some sense. Some say that maybe it was around 2500 BC. I will discuss that particular part. And then, majority of the historians, they believe that the Vedic text was written only after 2000 BC. and a lot of them place it around 1500 BC. And they say that in the 1500 BC, the Vedic literature was written, and this was written by the Aryans coming from outside. And there were opinions that maybe Aryans came from steppe region, or they came from Iran, or from maybe eastern part of Europe. These are the different directions or different regions identified by the scholars. Now, I'm not going to go into detail, right, on what basis the scholars made the statement. But these statements were based on very, very flimsy grounds, and there's no substance in these statements at all. Now, before I come to the maybe core issue, let me tell you that let me give you some idea about the DNA research that we did. Now, the DNA research that we have done has clearly indicated that for last 12,000 or 13,000 years, there is no large-scale migration happening into the Indian subcontinent. There is no question of any invasion happening, in fact, in the Indian subcontinent. So that is one, very important, clue that we have got. Then, the people, maybe towards the end of the hunting-gathering stage, somewhere maybe in the northwest part of the Indian subcontinent, they broke into two branches. One branch went to Iran, and they got mixed up with the Anatolian region, with that region. And one branch came to South Asia or Indian subcontinent. And these are the people who developed their own ancestry, very distinct ancestry. And these are the people who started settled life and the development in this part. So that is very clear. Secondly, the ancestry which was developed maybe around 12,000 years ago, that same ancestry continues till Harappan times. These people had, right from the beginning, they had contact with different regions, maybe for the trade purpose. And there was a movement of the people happening all the time. Like today, in fact, a lot of people move out of India and, they get, work in different parts of the world. Like that also, there was maybe movement of the people happening mainly for the trade purpose. And a lot of mixing also was happening. But the ancestry of the people has not changed till Harappan times. And then, of course, we analyze the data from the Harappan skeletal remains from the site of Rakhigarhi. And in that case, in that particular, we found very, very interesting evidence. Now, though we have data from only one skeletal remain, we have very strong DNA from one skeletal remain. That data is not really enough to talk about the composition of the population. That data is not really enough to talk about the relation between Harappans and the contemporary population. But what we have got, in fact, the most important outcome of this research is that from Harappan times, the ancestry has continued till modern times. The steppes were coming and going. They're getting mixed up with the local people, but they have not really replaced the ancestry of these people. So that means, that is very important. And today, if we have compared the modern population, nearly 3,500 people's DNA was compared with the Harappan population. And we found that, and we covered almost all the different groups within the Indian subcontinent, 140 different groups. And we found that, in all these people, there is some, there is a Harappan ancestry continuing till today. So from Afghanistan to Bengal and from Kashmir to Andaman Nicobar, all these people have Harappan ancestry. So there is a continuity, in this particular respect. So if the people had come from outside, as was mentioned by some of the historians, that Aryans came from outside, they killed the people and they drew away some, what they call as Dravidians, to South India. If that was the case, then certainly the ancestry would have broken, the South Asian ancestry would have broken, and a new ancestry would have been introduced, which has not really happened. We do find the mixing of the steppe people, mixing of the Iranian maybe people in the Harappan population more after 2000 BC. Not only this, we also found a very, very interesting evidence. We compared the Iranian population which is contemporary to the Harappans. There is a site called Shari Sukta, not very far from the border with Pakistan. And then we also studied one site in Turkmenistan called Gonur. And both the sites are contemporary to the Harappans. And what we found, in fact, which is very, very interesting, in the Gonur population, we did the DNA of the Gonur population, we did the DNA of the Shari Sukta population, and we found the mixing of the Harappan gene in these people, but not their gene, in fact, in the Harappan population at all. So that means, the Harappans began to go out first, and then perhaps, there was some kind of reciprocal, maybe movement happening. And therefore, we find more people coming after 2000 BC. But there was no invasion or migration at any stage. So that means, that the entire development, right from the beginning of agriculture till the Harappan times, we have, in fact, very good evidence about it. We have documented properly the development from the beginning of agriculture to the Harappan culture, Harappan civilization. So that is very clear, in fact, in the archaeological data. We have, data from the site of Mehergarh, which is located in Pakistan. We have data from the site of Rakhigarhi, Virana, Girawat, Kunal, and various sites, in fact, in the Saraswati Basin. So that is, very, very, interesting evidence we are getting. And within the Harappan also, the Harappans began their lifestyle maybe around 5,500 BC, nearly 7,500 years ago, or even 8,000 years ago. And then from 7,500 or 8,000, there was a constant development till 5,000 years ago. And around 5,000 BC, around 5,000 years ago, they have transformed into an urban phase. So that development is very clear, in fact. There is a very strong data found, in fact, in the archaeological sites. So nobody can deny this data now. We can always say that, this particular development was done by the local people. And therefore, my argument is that the Vedic culture was, or the Vedic literature was written by the indigenous people. And the description given, in fact, in the text gives us some idea about what is the date of this particular culture. And I place this around between maybe 3000 to 2500 BC. Now, why I'm doing that? Now, there is a mention about river Saraswati. Now, we have clearly identified. There are still some scholars who do not agree with our identification of the Saraswati today. But we have very scientific data, in fact. Now, we have data generated by ISRO. A lot of geologists have worked, a lot of hydrologists have worked on this particular issue. And plus, we have used the archaeological data. So on the basis of that, we can clearly say that the present Ghaggar and Hakra, which is most of the major part of which is in Haryana, that was the ancient river Saraswati. And in the Vedic text also, the Vedic text has given a proper, the location of the river. They have mentioned, the location of Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, Drusavati, Saraswati, and then, of course, the Indus River or the Sindhu River. So it is clearly mentioned that between Sindhu and Yamuna, the river Saraswati was located. So we have clearly identified. And also there was a mention that the river has disappeared at some stage. There is no mention about the date. So that means the river was not flowing. So when we did when the ISRO scientists did the satellite imagery photograph, they could clearly see the trail, in fact, of this particular river. And in the text also, it is mentioned that it is coming from the Himalayas, from the foothill of the Himalayas, and they have given the direction of this particular river. So it comes from Sivalik, foothills of the Sivaliks, comes to Punjab, then entire Haryana, parts of Rajasthan. So this particular trail today is called the Ghaggar River. And then it enters into Pakistan in Bahawalpur district. And then, in Pakistan, it comes down straight to Kutch part of Gujarat and then goes to the sea. So the part which is in Pakistan is called Hakra. So today we see that Gaggar Hakra represents the ancient river Saraswati. So that is very clear. And there are a number of references to river Saraswati in the Vedic text. So there are maybe something like 70 or 71 references in the Vedic text for the river Saraswati. So Saraswati was very important. And then there is also mention about the flourishing settlements, flourishing cities in the Saraswati basin. So we did the archaeological investigation in that part. I am working on this particular issue right from 2006. I scanned the whole area, in fact, which has been, discussed and mentioned, in fact, in the text. And then I found that there are large number of only Harappan settlements. The Harappan settlements belonging to early Harappan phase, maybe late early Harappan phase, and the phase of the Harappan civilization. So maybe roughly from 3000 to 2000 BC. So we have large number of them. And when we study the distribution of the Harappan culture, we find that nearly 2/3 of the Harappan settlements. Today we have discovered nearly 2000 Harappan settlements, and out of 2000, 2/3 are located in the Saraswati basin. So that means it was very, very important for the Harappans. The Saraswati basin was very important. We do not have such a large number of settlements of either of the earlier period nor of the later period. So this is very important evidence. So this relates to the description given in the text. The text mentions the flourishing settlements. So we have this, Harappan settlements there, archaeological evidence. Then the text has mentioned about the important, maybe some of the cities, flourishing cities on the bank of river Saraswati. Now we have the site of Rakhigarhi, which is now the biggest Harappan city. Almost, double the size of Mohenjo-daro, which was supposed to be the biggest Harappan city. Then we have site of Kalibanga. We have site of Farmana, which I excavated. We have site of Banavli. So these are some of the, and Kalibanga finally. So these are the cities which are located in the Saraswati basin. And we do not have, again, we do not have the cities of the later period located in this particular period. We have some very maybe sporadic later settlements here and there, but not in a big number, not in a systematic way that we find in fact in the Harappan levels. So here again, if the text has mentioned about river Saraswati, the text has mentioned about the cities, then they must have mentioned to these cities which are located there. So that is, my argument, which I, I'm proposing. Then the description, the textual description, Vedic textual description talks about an ideal city. The description is that the city is usually divided into 3 parts. And each part is, fortified. That is the description given in the text. Now, we do not have these type of cities in the later period, nor before the Harappans. Because before the Harappans, everybody was living in villages, not in cities. There is a site called Dholavira. Now, this site, Harappan site, matches very well with the description given in the Vedic text. The site is divided into 3 parts. The excavator has identified the most important part of the city as Acropolis, or the citadel part, where perhaps, important people lived, maybe important administrators lived. Then we have middle town, where perhaps the officials lived there. And we have lower town at the site of Dholavira, and each one is fortified. So we have a city, the layout of the city, which is exactly the same as described in the text. We do not have this type of cities in the later period at all. So that is also very, very important evidence, very clinching evidence that we have. Then there's a mention about the fire worship. The site of Kalibanga, first time, in fact, when it was excavated in 1950s or early 60s, Now this site provided or yielded large number of fire altars of different sizes, different shapes. Some are single, some are connected, multiple. And in some of them, we have in situ evidence of burnt wood and burnt animal bones. And some of the pits, some of the, these fire pits are really very, very well built, lined with bricks. So some, scholars, in fact, some of them maybe Western scholars or the American scholars, they do not accept this as the evidence of the fire altars. These are definitely, not domestic hearths, much bigger than that. And certainly, they appear to be fire altars. But, some scholars say that maybe these are the trash pits. But let me tell you that nobody will build trash pit like this. In fact, very well, marked, very well, lined with bricks. Nobody can do that. And there is an in situ evidence of wood and animal bones in them. So this is very important evidence that we have from the site of Kalibangan. And later, when we excavate the site of Rakhigarhi, we have the same evidence. Banauli has the same evidence. The sites located in the Saraswati Basin, only those sites have the evidence of fire worship. And fire worship is mentioned very strongly in the Rigvedic text. The Rigvedic text has given description about different kinds of fire altars. So there's a yoni-shaped fire altar, human-shaped fire altar. So all these are found, in fact, the squarish fire altars, the rectangular fire altars. All this type of evidence is found only in the Harappan levels, not in the later period at all. So this evidence, this archaeological evidence, which is there strongly, now this we can relate to the description given in the text. So this also suggests that they are mentioned to this particular evidence. Then the text has also mentioned about the, a very well planned cities. The planning of the city, a great planning of the city, it is mentioned. All the Harappan cities, though the number is small, the Harappan cities are very, very well planned. They appear to be like a great plan. So we have the evidence of that in the Harappan levels. Then, there is a mention about, the presence of the craftsmen, the craft specialization within the, cities, or as per the text. So we also have a very good evidence about this particular aspect which is mentioned in the text. We have a lot of evidence of the presence of various craftsmen, like potter, then maybe coppersmith, people manufacturing maybe terracotta bangles, shell bangles, and all this. In fact, we have the evidence for that only in the Harappan levels. So there is a strong evidence of that. Then also the text mentioned that the Vedic people were very, courageous, and they, undertook the maybe, seafaring activities. And let me tell you that, this is the evidence, which is very strongly found in the Harappan levels. The evidence of the seafaring activities. The site of Lothal, where the government is building now, the biggest national maritime heritage complex, the big museum there. So that is, Lothal has the earliest dockyard anywhere in the world. It is not simple port, it is a port also. But plus, there is a structure which has been identified as dockyard. Now this site was excavated by S.R. Rao, again, in 50s and early 60s. And when he excavated, he identified this structure as a dockyard. And there was a lot of hue and cry from the scholarly world. Nobody was really, ready to accept. But S.R. Rao really, he did not budge. What he did, in fact, he called the Indian Navy experts. And without telling them what he thinks about this particular structure, now he requested them to identify the function of this particular structure. And after observing this particular structure very carefully, the explanation came from this Navy people that the only function of this could be a dockyard. So, that is how it was confirmed that it is a dockyard. And there is a related, maybe evidence. Now there is a maybe in inlay and outlet for inlet and outlet for the structure. And these structures, the bricks in fact which are used, they are set in bitumen, mortar. The bitumen is like a tar. It's a waterproof substance. The bitumen was not used as a mortar for constructing the ordinary buildings. They realized that that this structure will always have water, so they have used the waterproof substance there. So Harappans, they have taught the world how to build ships. They started this activity, how to build, build boats, how to repair them. So all these activities, took place in fact at the site of Lothal. And then of course, they carried trade from Lothal to, the Gulf of, with the Gulf region. Oman in fact, there is a site called Ras Al Jin in Oman, which was directly connected to Lothal. And then, from Oman, maybe, then, they sailed to Mesopotamia and to Egypt. So this type of, the seafaring activities was undertaken by the Harappans. They were capable of doing that. And there is a description about this activity in the text. And therefore, I say that, that the Harappans are the Vedic people, because the Vedic, the text has mentioned the activities of those people which were observed by the writer. So this is very, very important. And then, there are two evidences which are, fiercely debated. One is that, some scholars say that, okay, but we do not have proper representation of the Vedic gods. Most of the people think that, the Shiva is a non-Vedic god. But let me tell you that, right from the beginning, Shiva worship was almost all over the country. And today, that, right from maybe, Himalayas to maybe Kanyakumari, Shiva is a very common god. And we find the evidence of that. We do not find evidence of maybe Indra, Varun, etc., because they may have been worshipped in a natural form. So therefore, we do not get evidence for that. But we need to generate, we need to look for this carefully, of course. It is not that, that this particular issue is settled here. But, we are getting some direction now, some traces of this. And from here, maybe, we can work on these particular issues. And the other issue is that Aryans and the horse, or the Vedic Aryans and the horse, they go hand in hand. And scholars argue that there is no horse at all. If these people were Aryans, Vedic Aryans, then they should have used horse. But let me tell you, there is a site called Surkotra, which is in Kutch part of Gujarat. And there are some bones, which were studied, animal bones. J.P. Joshi was the excavator, and he thought that, these bones are very useful, very suspecting maybe horse bones. So he invited one of the very well-known archaeologists from Hungary. His name was Bocconi. So Professor Bocconi studied this, bones. And he came to the conclusion that these bones belong to the proper domesticated horse. Later, the same specimens were studied by a group of archaeologists from Harvard University, headed by Richard Meadow. And Meadow says that, no, these are not bones of domesticated horse, but these are the bones of wild donkey, wild ass. And he said that, wild donkey is still there in fact in Kutch part. So here, the community is divided, the scientific community is divided, firstly. But let me tell you also that there are some terracotta images, one at the site of Mohenjo-daro and one at the site of Lothal. And these images are clearly identified as images of horse. So, horse, we need, of course, more evidence, but it appears that horse was there. Perhaps, it was an important animal, and therefore, we do not find, the presence of large number of bones. Probably, the Harappans have not really included horse in their diet, and therefore, we do not get large number of bones, because this was a very useful animal. So this is the evidence which needs to be properly, understood. We need to generate more data. Then about the language, if the Harappans are carrying out trade with, maybe far off places, the sea trade with Mesopotamia, with Gulf region, with Egypt, then they needed language and the script. And a lot of historians believe that the Indo-Aryan language came only after 2000 BC in Indian subcontinent. But my argument is that we have no clear-cut evidence about where the Indo-European language is originated. Secondly, what is the date of the Indo-European language? There's a lot of ambiguity about that. We do not have clear evidence for that. But my hunch is that perhaps the Harappans were so advanced that perhaps whatever maybe traditions and the cultural elements developed by the Harappans have continued even today. We can see that in North India particularly, it's very common. Particularly in Rakhigarhi, when we go around in the village, I get the impression that I am moving in fact in the Harappan village. Exactly same kind of structures. The pots which are being used, earthen pots used by the people, they look exactly like Harappan earthen pots. Even tandoor is like the Harappan tandoor. And overall maybe the forms of the vessel, though the medium has changed today, the forms have not really changed. So that means that there is a continuity from Harappans to modern times in the cultural continuity. We have adopted a lot of these. Then we also have adopted some of the traditions that were introduced by the Harappans. Like for example, the yoga tradition. Now yoga So the yoga tradition was developed by the Harappans. And it continued. We have found there are a lot of terracotta figurines. And these terracotta human figurines are shown in different yogic posture. So that is a contribution, in fact, given, and that has continued even today. Then the Namaste tradition, in fact, at the site of Kalibanga, we have some figurines, human figurines, depicted in this particular format, Namaste tradition. So that tradition also is very, very important and starts from the Harappan times. And today, the whole world has realized the importance of this. Earlier, people used to think, people used to laugh at this tradition. But today, because of the corona, people have realized the importance of this. So this tradition is very important, which was developed by the Harappans. So there's a lot of continuity. And therefore, I believe that the language that was spoken by the Harappans, that also has continued. So I strongly believe that Harappans introduced perhaps the early form of Sanskrit. And then that particular language has continued. And when they began to move out of India, first Harappans, they probably carried the Harappan traditions outside India and probably the Harappan language also. And that is how, maybe the spread of the Indo-European language in different parts of the world, in fact. So this is my, understanding about the Harappan language. So these are the, some of the evidences, which are very important. And they point towards the relationship between the Vedic literature and the lifestyle of the Harappan culture. So I therefore strongly believe that Harappans and the Vedic people, they were one and the same. Now, what is the contribution, Pat? Then what are the important, the facets of this culture? I'll just, briefly, I will talk about this. One is that, that we always compare Harappans with the Egyptians and the Mesopotamians, because, the urbanization took place simultaneously in these three regions, in the northwest part of Indian subcontinent, in Mesopotamia between Tigris and Euphrates, and in the middle phase of the Nile River, the Egyptian civilization flourished.
Shindeji, it's muted at your end. You need to unmute it. Yeah, now it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir. Please go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Hello?
We can hear you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you, sir. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, we can hear you.
With the contemporaries, particularly Mesopotamians and Egyptians. And people, want to visit Mesopotamian sites or Egyptian sites because there are, large, maybe creations of maybe monumental architecture. The Egyptians, there are pyramids, there are life-size images, there are maybe very rich royal tombs to see. So people go there. Even in Mesopotamia also there are big temples, royal tombs and life-size images. So they are visible in fact today. People want to see that. But we do not see these type of creations in the Harappan sites, in the Harappan area. That does not mean that the Harappans or the Vedic people were not capable of generating this type of monumental architecture. They were very much capable of doing that. They were very much competent, perhaps they were much more competent than their contemporaries. But they have not done that intentionally. What they did, in fact, that they earned a lot of wealth from the West. They are very flourishing trade, business, in fact, with the Mesopotamians and the Egyptians. And, they were getting a lot of wealth. So that wealth was used by the Harappans for the welfare of the common people. So they use that wealth for creating those beautiful, cities for the common people. They use that wealth, in fact, for creating that unique, drainage system within the Harappan area or Harappan cities. So they knew that, that this type of monumental architecture, they are of no use to the common people. And therefore, they have not created that. Instead, that wealth was used for the
His signal is actually very weak. So I think hopefully you should, yeah. Yeah, Shindeji, signal at your end is actually weak. That's what is causing the problem. No issue,
Okay.
sir. Please go ahead and talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. There was a signal issue at your end, but
Okay.
that's okay. Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead,
Okay.
sir.
So that is one, which is a different, the Harappans had a different philosophy, whereas, the Egyptians had a different philosophy. They never really believed in burying the dead, burying the wealth along with the dead bodies, the way the Egyptians and the Mesopotamians are done, because they knew that once it is buried, it is gone forever, and that cannot be used for the welfare purpose. So the philosophy of the Harappans was very different. So here, what my understanding is that we should tell the world what was the maybe Harappan philosophy. Harappan people were really more practical people. So this is the important part of the Harappan civilization. Then they develop the trade activities, how they flourished, in fact, how they could manage to develop cities and towns. They did not have a lot of resources. The resources were located outside the Harappan cities, outside the Harappan region. And there were a number of contemporary hunting, these early farming communities around the Harappan region. And some of the resources like copper, Khetri region was the source right from the beginning. So that source was controlled by the local Chakutik people there. Then the source of gold came from South India near Gulbarga, the Hatti mines. They were in fact that was the main source, and that source was controlled by the Neolithic farmers there in South India. So they developed good relation with these people, and they obtained the raw materials from them. And then they had the technology with them, so they manufactured finished goods from these, and they supplied the finished goods to the same people from whom they obtained the raw material. So they gave so much importance to the trade, and trade was, they were able to generate so much wealth. That wealth was used for the development of cities and towns by the Harappan people. They have not really wasted that wealth. And there is so much to learn, in fact. Let me give you an example that this knowledge has survived, in fact, and spread in different parts. Japan, I always give the example of Japan. Japan was almost destroyed in Second World War. I've seen, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the destruction, that had taken place that time. But within 15 years, Japan became a world economic power. In 1964, they in fact held Olympics, Tokyo Olympics, and they showcased the progress that they have made, in fact, within such a short period. And Japan adopted the same strategy as the Harappans did, in fact. What they did, Japan also started importing raw materials from India, China, the developing countries, and they had technology with them. So they process these raw materials in their workshops, produce large amount of finished goods, and they supplied finished goods to the same people from whom they were obtaining raw material. That is how these the Harappans could flourish. That is how the Harappans could do that, and that is how the Japanese also flourish. So there is so much to learn from the Harappans, and then there is so much relevance. In fact, the technology that the Harappans developed, it has got relevance even today. I will request all of you, those who are watching, they should visit one site called Dholavira, which is located in Kutch part of Gujarat. There is so much to learn from this particular site. Now that site or this city, perhaps one of the most flourishing Harappan cities. Even though it was not very big city, it was very, very flourishing city. And what Harappans did, they wanted to establish this particular city there only, in the desert part, because there's a very important trade route from Sindh to Saurashtra, and they have established number of settlements like this on the trade route. But before establishing the settlement, they have studied the geography and the geology of this region. They studied the climate, and then they decided to establish the city between two small rivers. One river is called Manhar, and the other one is called Mansar. And what they did, whenever there is a occasional rainfall in the desert part, you get small flash floods to the rivers. So Harappans, what they did, in fact, they put series of dams on both the rivers, and they diverted the entire water inside the Harappan city. And inside the city, they dug underground water tanks at different levels. In fact, the city has 3 divisions. In each division, we find water tanks, and they were connected. Water tanks were connected by underground water channel system, and that is how they made sure that there is always running water available within the city. So that made sure that there is no dearth of water there. They always have sufficient water. They made tremendous efforts for harvesting this water, rainwater. That water also was used for domestic purpose as well as for agriculture purpose also there. So much water was harvested by these people, and then there is a very good evidence about the water management. A very good lesson to learn from that. Today, the nearest town to Dholavira is Rapur, which is 110 kilometers. And between Rapur and Dholavira, there are hardly 4 or 5 cities, 4 or 5 villages. And people are not really establishing settlements there because of dearth of water. But if this Harappan system is implemented, in different places in the desert part, the entire desert can be, turned into greenland. There is so much to learn in fact. And the Harappan technology was so simple, done by the by the community, and it was a community efforts, and it really does not really require a lot of investment. So this indigenous technology can be applicable even today, and that is the relevance in fact of the knowledge system that was created by the Harappans. So I'm just giving you some of the examples how the the knowledge system is so relevant even today. So these are some of the important issues or important maybe factors that the Harappans have developed. Then what happens, the concept of nation, maybe that is coming from the Harappan times again. The situation during the early Harappan time, maybe from 5500 BC to 2600 BC, was that there were a number of different regional cultures in the Harappan region. And by 2600 BC, these cultures were integrated. And they created a huge uniform culture over an area which is almost 2 million square kilometers, double the size of Pakistan. And over this area, they created a uniform culture, sort of a nation. So the concept of nation goes back to the Harappan times. And within this, they had maybe a lot of diversity. The diversity also is reflected in the archaeological data. Maybe the food habits were different in different regions. Some of the material culture was different. But there is a standardization also in the town planning, in the brick size, brick ratio. So that is really very, very important. And they create a sort of empire in fact. We always believe that the empire concept has come maybe from Mauryan period onward. And we always believe that the empire is created by forceful means, by capturing maybe the surrounding area. But that is not the case in fact. The Harappans did this integration by peaceful means. We do not have any evidence about the violence in fact in the Harappan times. Then how these they also created some public buildings like fortification wall. The Dholavira, if you visit Dholavira, you will notice that there is a 18-meter thick fortification wall. How these creations were done by the Harappans, that is also very big question mark. And my answer to that is simple. The Harappans had some sort of a panchayat system. It was not ruled by royal families, unlike Mesopotamia or Egypt. They had the maybe rulers there. And there what the Harappans did in fact, they probably took they harnessed the community maybe strength for developing these type of maybe creations. And these creations, this type of public architecture, they were meant for the people, created by the people and meant for the people. Not like ziggurats or maybe pyramids, which is of no use to the common people. So these type of creations were done by the Harappans. So from this we get the idea that the Harappans were very much capable of creating this type of huge buildings. So this is the evidence which we are getting. And there is so much maybe the political organization, the social organization, the administrative system, it throws a lot of light on that. Certainly there was no maybe kingdom, because we do not find any evidence of palaces anywhere. If the palaces were located were there, they should have been either at Rakhigarhi, Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, or Dholavira. We do not have that evidence anywhere. Probably the group of people, in fact, the elderly people in the village or the city, they must have managed the affairs, the administrative affairs of the Harappan cities and towns. So this is the kind of evidence that we are getting, in fact, from the Harappan levels. So there is so much, in fact, that there is so much to learn from the Harappans. It is not that Harappan culture, I always believe that it is a culture which has, very strongly set the foundation of the modern India. And there is so much continuity from the Harappans to the modern times. Now, what happens, in fact, to the Harappans ultimately? Around maybe 1500 BC, maybe because of the climatic condition, we have the evidence for that. Because climate became dry, and people, they were not able to sustain, in fact, in their core area. So they, began to move out of the Harappan region, and the area outside the Harappan region was occupied by the contemporary population or the contemporary, farmers. So they got mixed up with the farmers there, and there, in fact, they kept alive the Harappan tradition. And then, of course, it continues from generation to generation till modern times. And probably this very important knowledge system that was created, the knowledge of that was passed on from generation to generation, in the Indian subcontinent. And probably, it was given some kind of a, formal education, basis, status when the earliest universities like Takshila was established, or, Nalanda University was established, Vikramshila University. So there, in fact, the traditional knowledge system was, which was developed by the Harappans, that was taught there, and scholars from all over the world, in fact, they should come to learn about this. So we had a very, very strong system, in fact, in the country. And, because of that, this knowledge system has survived on today, in spite of the fact that the Harappan empire has collapsed, but the system has not really collapsed. So I never say that the Harappans have died. They are always very much there. So this is in short, in fact, I just wanted to tell you about the, Vedic culture and their relation with the Harappan culture. And ultimately, my view is that the Harappans and the Rigvedic people, they are one and the same. So thank you very much, Giridharji. I'm sorry that, that there was some, disturbance in between. But I hope that, whatever I wanted to convey to you, perhaps it has reached to all of you. I'll be happy to, answer any question if anybody has.
Thank you so much, Shindeji. It was a pleasure here listening to you. You have really walked through, a lifetime or probably a few lifetimes of research and archaeology in a short period of 1 hour. That is amazing. What happens is whenever one attends these conferences of archaeologists, especially archaeologists, one tends to hear many jargons, grey pottery, grey ware, pottery ware, and, ochre ware, and, bead culture. But then people won't understand that to the real people who are using that. I think you gave face to the, findings you had on the ground. That was wonderful. You actually walked through the whole thing, and you did bring out the commonalities between, the Vedic culture and the Harappans and or whatever around that period, whatever Sindhu Saraswati civilization we had. I think that was really wonderful, sir. But I have the luxury, because I am the moderator here, I'm not going to let go the chance of asking you a few questions before I let others ask you.
Sure.
Yeah. So I've actually unmuted Sudarshan ji. So in case he wants to come in anytime, he's welcome, sir. So sir, the point is the kind of narrative that the leftist historians built out of this. Some of it you did address in terms of the horse bones, or in terms of the pits in Kalibangan and things like that. But then language, not deciphering the script in the script also is a big challenge in terms of how do we link it up. So
right.
That seems to be an issue. But obviously, like what you said, they wouldn't be able to build such massive walls and harness the water unless there was some literary thing to back them up, some kind of a knowledge base that could have backed them up. So this linkage between the Vedas and the Harappan is an area where I don't think India has done great in terms of really investing in research, bringing in people from various disciplines and then making them sit and talk. You know, the Saraswati River you spoke about, the paleo-archaeologists, I think that was a success story for us. People from satellite ISRO, many faculties came and did that. But I suppose in the rest of the sites, they have not really done as much. That is a sad part. I think initially you also said that, you know, archaeology is something which people don't really give too much of credit to. How do you see this going forward, sir? For instance, you mentioned Bibi Lalji. Bibi Lalji dug up some of these sites in 1964, 65, 66. So after that, I don't think any of these sites have been revisited. Is there a need for us to revisit these sites? Because some of the sites associated with the Vedic period or the Mahabharat period, they are, lying in a dilapidated state. And,
Right.
there is a governmental investment in trying to showcase them as a tourist or a pilgrim spot, nor there is any investment in terms of further doing excavation in that place. Maybe they would have done a few pits here and there, found a few pottery ware and they've gone home. But then extensive survey of that area from multi-faculty has not happened. So how do you look at this, whatever has happened till now and, the way forward? How do you look at the way forward, sir?
What is important now here in Indian history and archaeology, that now we have to, do this history and archaeology problem oriented. We have not done that really. You talk about the script. Now, if you really want to decipher the script, we need to, do this maybe multidisciplinary approach for that. Maybe, we need to have maybe historians, archaeologists, even linguists, the grammar experts, they should come together and, they should work on a common problem. That is not really happening in fact in the, in India, which is, unfortunately sad part. Secondly, this is a good, whatever, new research is happening, it is, giving some hint now. Now from here, we have to move. I mentioned about the DNA research. Now DNA is a very, we have got very small evidence. So we need to generate more data in fact in this respect. And then only, we can talk about the Harappan, maybe composition of the Harappan population, etc. So in that direction, we need to really we need to proceed. We need to, involve number of these young scientists, young archaeologists, historians, and they need to be given proper training. In fact, how to proceed, in the research, activities. That is not really happening in fact in the country, and we need to really train them properly in this respect. And whatever data was generated earlier, Bibi Lal excavated in fact, in 50s, SRF excavated in, maybe 50s, 60s. So that data needs to be reanalyzed again, because now, there are a lot of scientific methods available, scientific aids available. So we need to reanalyze the data, and perhaps let's see, what information, more information, will come from this. Yeah. Even though there are large number of bones, found at number of sites, they need to be reanalyzed because maybe the earlier scholars have not really identified the animal species properly. They need to be done scientifically. We need to do even, DNA of the animal bones, DNA of the plant remains, etc., from the, ancient remains. So what I suggest that, we really need not go for, large scale excavations at any site. You choose the maybe problem and carry out your research strategy as per the research problem that we have. And this will happen in fact, once we have, we have decided, we have given some direction, and a lot of scholars will follow that. And eventually, we will succeed in fact in generating sufficient data, which can correct the history, which can really throw light on new aspects, etc. So that is going to happen. So history writing is going to be a continuous process. It is not that, so somebody has mentioned, and that is the final gospel, not like that. Earlier hypotheses are bound to change, with these new evidence, application of new methods, and the aids of the scientists. So we are hopeful that, maybe in next, maybe 10, 15 years, we will be able to generate, a lot of database in this respect.
Yeah, and also I think when you were in Hyderabad, you mentioned that some of these samples of Rakhigarhi DNA also, I think you got it tested from Singapore or somewhere, right? Or
So what we
Seoul.
did, this is how this is how one should proceed. What we did,
No, I understand, but the point is that I think the samples were sent out of India.
No.
For other labs to test it and send it, right?
No. What we did, we generated, these, samples here only.
Okay.
We generated, the files of the samples here, and the files of the samples were sent for the cross-checking only. We did, the entire process in India. But if we had suppose, we had published that data ourselves, then the same scholars, who are part of the research project now, they would have criticized us. They would have said that, the research methodology that you are adopted is wrong. The procedure is wrong. So what we did, we sent the, samples to them for cross-checking. And once we got the data from all of them, then we decided to publish. That is how, one should really, proceed, in research activities.
Yeah. Sudarshanji, you want to say something? Yeah.
Thank you, Vasantji.
Thank you.
Your wonderful presentation, taking us back to 7000 BC or 5000 BC, and safely bringing back to the present times of the present archaeologists and then present findings. It's almost a wonderful historical archaeological account. But as you said, the major problem with us is that the historians and archaeologists have to meet.
Right.
As you suggest that there should be a common platform where both of them should sit together, and then because all these interpretations, right from the explorative stage to now the present stage of new archaeology, there are many things they have come in way. So that, the presentation from the side of the historians and the interpretations from the side of the archaeologists, they should meet some, there must be some synthesis. That attempt has to be made.
Yeah, right.
Because, with regard to the Aryan issue or any other issue, we have almost fossilized ideas about that based on the early findings and early interpretations, which were not very much informed at that particular period of time. And later, a lot of developments have come. So keeping in view of all these developments, I think a team of both the archaeologists and then ancient historians of ancient India should sit together and then thrash out these problems. The one thing that you mentioned about the language, you said, that's a major problem now.
Right.
As you suggested, that the Vedic language and then the earlier Harappan script or Harappan language, whatever it could be, might have some linkage with them. So if you think that this is the earlier version of the Sanskrit or Vedic Sanskrit, I think that has yet to be established.
Yeah, of course. This is just a
problem. Suppose if it is done, everything is done.
right.
That solves all the problems. As far as the archaeological artifacts are concerned, they can be interpreted in any way.
Right.
For example, the dancing girl, as Professor T.P. Verma, who is recently deceased, he suggests that it was a form of Parvati. So that is how the historian looks at it from his literary background or philosophical background. So historians, they can make certain things and they can unmake certain things. So when archaeology and historians both sit together and synchronize, I think such problems may not creep up. So it's a wonderful thing that we had a wonderful interaction here, and then this should be our effort that a group of historians and the archaeologists of any particular, even for the medieval period also, medieval archaeologists and then medieval historians, they differ on so many issues. Now you have the technology of new archaeology. New archaeology interpreters are also there. So keeping in view of all these developments in archaeology itself, study the discipline of archaeology itself, I think you will have to revisit those things.
Sure.
Earlier sites. And then the historians also should also observe and rethink about what had happened at that particular point of time. So
Right.
thank you, Shindeji. Wonderful time we had. Thank
So
you.
what I did,
Language
in
part.
in case of language, it is not, of course, conclusion. Of course, what I feel about the language that I just proposed, because those who believe that the Indo-European language came from outside, they should first explain where the origin of this language is, and when the origin, when it happened really. Nobody is really, talking on that.
Right.
So why not, if the Harappans were so advanced, they have developed cities and towns around, middle of 3rd millennium BC, and they were doing trade with the, maybe outside South Asia. Probably, these are the people who must have developed this language also, Sanskrit language also. So that is my just thinking about that.
Yes.
We need to work, of course, more.
Actually,
we have this script.
Yeah.
Earlier phase, no, we do not come across such efforts except some pictographs.
Yeah, right.
So the linkage between the development of what script from the ancient times, from the prehistoric times to the proto-historic times, that is again a very big question that has to be linked up. Otherwise, no, you cannot move forward to the historical period.
Yeah, that is true. Right.
So that's a very wonderful study. If somebody is interested in the linguistics and
exactly.
a multidisciplinary approach, so
Sure.
that we have to do.
Yeah. Thank you very much, David.
I think I'm going to come in between two giant elephants, one from history and one from archaeology, and I'll try and button a bit. Though the script, of course, both of you are not linguists. Somebody like Shrikant Talagiri and others who have been linguists, they have come out with certain postulations and certain theories. And even Kalyan Ramanji says that, these are all trade-related issues, and he has given his own interpretation of all the, symbols of Harappan seals. He has his own interpretation. Of course, that is something which I don't know how it flows. In fact, his theory was so strong that it actually got into the current budget speech of Nirmala Sitharamanji also. So guilds and, the Shrenis and the Shettis and all that came in there actually.
Yeah, right.
It seems to be a postulation. There seems to be a theory to it, but that's something which, the rest of you need to come to some kind of an agreement.
Sure.
Yeah. So second thing is, I just wanted to share the site of Rakhigarhi that you have excavated, sir. As a normal person, I have traveled this place. I think almost all the sites that you mentioned, I have traveled on my own. But the pathetic scene is the state of, all the listeners here have such a high regard for Rakhigarhi, and you have been doing some yeoman service. In fact, yesterday you were on rakhigarhi.com and you spoke on Rakhigarhi on Prajna Bharati platform. Rakhigarhi is such a powerful tool right now, but look how pathetic Rakhigarhi is in terms of, the way we are treating it. So this is the site, if I'm not wrong, sir, right?
Yeah, right.
So now we'll see what happens to this particular thing.
Now let's hope, because, the government of India has announced a special budget for, these sites.
Yeah.
So maybe, government, needs to plan it properly. They need to take help of all the stakeholders.
Yeah.
And all the experts working on that. Then only perhaps, we will be able to produce, proper plan for the site, in fact, yes.
Yeah. One second. There's something to it. 1 second, sir. Yeah. I'll just share one more in this. This is the status of artifacts which are lying there. It's just lying, a lot of stuff there.
Yeah,
sure. Friends, we are looking at these pottery shreds, which are 5,000, 6,000 years old. And this is the kind of respect we have for our, heritage. And that pains us a lot. And another one I wanted to share was this. This really tears our hearts, sir. In the site of Rakhigarhi, people are now using it for cow dung, for their, whatever waste they dump there, and then cremation grounds. They're even cremating people there.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, we are talking about the glorious heritage of Bharat, and this is how it is being abused. So that is a sad part of it. I wanted to share these few things before I throw it open for Q&A. But the last thing you said, when you walked in Rakhigarhi, you felt like you're walking, through the Harappan period. So
yeah, when I walk in the Harappan, in the village today,
yeah,
you get the impression that yes.
So true. This is in the Harappan village. Sorry, in Rakhigarhi village, there is a wall, which all or pigeons and parrots living there. You see pottery shreds everywhere. All this wall you have pottery. This is a mound where I'm sure you will have a lot of material there. This is bang in the middle of the village of Rakhigarhi. So it has been a lovely trip for me, but also a sad trip in terms of the kind of treatment we are doing to our own sites.
Right.
Great, sir. I'll just show a couple of things and then we will start the Q&A. So is this okay? Can people see this?
Right.
So this is from Kalibangan.
Okay.
This is from Kalibangan. This is the bangle, part of a bangle. Bangan is bangle.
Yes.
So this is Kalibangan. This is the bangle piece from the Kalibangan. So it's just lying on the on the floor and getting washed with the rainwater. And this is the pottery shred you can see with the black painting, which is still lasting after 7,000 years, 5,000-6,000 years. We still have the, these are all stuff which are just lying vacant. I mean, just thrown out there. I'm sure you picked up the nice ones, put it in the museum, and the rest of it is just lying there. I think every Indian should visit the sites that you mentioned, sir. And they go to Tirupati, they go to Kashi Vishwanath, but these are all, much ancient than any of these. And they are our heritage. And thanks a lot for the lovely lecture, sir. Now we'll open it up for the Q&A. Indira ji, our Joint Secretary, she will be the first one to ask. Indira ji, please go ahead. Yeah.
Sir, thanks for your excellent exposition. My limited question is, we have, government, since you have worked in the government, is there enough encouragement and funding from government? My next question is, why can't private bodies, like business people, why don't they fund for these excavations? Because I have heard like Lord Carnarvon, Englishman, and Howard Carter, how they did excavations.
Right.
And then interested private parties or businessmen who have got a lot of money, why don't they come out like how they do in the West, in our country, when we have such a rich heritage? The third question is, why can't we have in small towns some museums for children to show? Because after being grown up, I went to West and saw in some museums our own things, 300 BC idols. I felt so nostalgic about them. So what do you say about it? That's my
No, see, as far as the funding is concerned, I think, we are not really making enough efforts. There is a lot of funding available. But a lot of scholars are so lazy in writing proper proposals. They don't want to do that. And, as far as the funding from the private, players are concerned, there are a lot of people, who are ready, but they need to be convinced that, the funding is going to be utilized for, right cause. That needs to be done, and nobody's doing that now, unfortunately. But once you start working, you never feel the dearth of funding at all. In fact, that is my experience at Rakhigarhi. And now, Rakhigarhi, we are developing a museum also at Rakhigarhi. We want to, maybe protect a part of the excavated portion also, so that people can walk through anytime. In fact, they can walk through the Harappan streets anytime. So that also we are doing, so that, and there, in fact, a lot of private players are coming forward. So we have, this, there are some industrialists in Haryana who are ready to, fund these projects. But they need to be convinced that, the money is going to be utilized, for a right cause. That is what is they expect, in fact. Otherwise, in India, there is no dearth of funding. The problem is, it is our problem only that, we don't make sufficient efforts.
Okay,
That's the
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I think we'll first give chance to the women in the group. Chitrali ji, please go ahead. Yeah. No, you don't have to unmute. You have unmuted yourself. You have muted yourself. Sorry. Yeah. Now you're fine. Now you're fine. You have to come closer to the mic. Your voice is low.
Okay, Namaskar Shinde ji. Now am I audible?
Still closer.
Still closer. Okay.
Yeah.
Namaskar Shinde ji. Is it okay now?
Slightly better, but you can do better than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah. Namaskar Shinde ji. It's wonderful, and I'm really thankful to Girdhar ji and you and others in Pragna Bharati for such wonderful talks. My short 3 questions in short I'll put. You said there's a Harappan lineage up to Bengal. I belong to Northeast, specifically from Assam. In Assam, we have Ahoms, non-Ahoms and tribals. So whether Assamese people also has a lineage to Harappan, any study has been done. My second question is whether you've done any study on Brahmaputra Valley civilization. And the third short question is that it is said that the Brahmins in Assam came from UP Vrindavan. How far is it true? Do you have any data or any work relating to this? Thank you.
I think, yeah. Shindeji's connection seems to be. We'll just wait for him to get back. Yeah, Shindeji, can you hear us?
No, I can hear you only. I could not hear to her.
Okay, she'll just repeat it. Yeah.
I think now she can.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me, Shindeji?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Sir, you said there's a Harappan lineage up to Bengal. I belong to Northeast, specifically from Assam. We have in Assam Ahoms, non-Ahoms and tribals. Do we have any lineage to Harappan, culture or Harappan lineage? Do you have any study about it? Second question is, have you done any work on the Brahmaputra Valley civilization? The third question is, it is said that Brahmins in Assam have lineage to the Brahmins of Vrindavan, UP. How far it is true? Do you have any data or work? That is, since you are very knowledgeable, I just thought I would ask about my origin tree. Thank you.
No, unfortunately, at this stage, we do not know much about the, about the Northeast region because, we are still, yet to work on this particular part. And as far as the, Brahmaputra region is concerned, some of my students are working there. And there is also similar evidence. The agriculture there is going back to almost 5,000 years. And then from 5,000, there's a continuous development happening. And these people are always, in fact, right from the Neolithic stage, what we call as the early farming community as the Neolithic stage. Right from that stage, they were, very well connected with, the other part of India. So a lot of, movement was happening right from the beginning. But, so as far as the genetic data is concerned, we do not have much, yet. We are going to work on that aspect in future.
Thank you.
So please do. It is very unfortunate that being a part of the country, please
sure.
Thank you.
We'll do that. Yes,
thank you. I mean, that's an unfortunate thing, Congress really didn't bother, beyond, their confines of Delhi, Rajasthan, Haryana. They thought the rest of India didn't exist for them. Hopefully now, I don't know, even now I'm a little disappointed with the current, department. But I hope that in future, offline, I expressed my sadness to Shindeji also. Hopefully in the future, we should find some kind of efforts in that direction. Sudarshanji also faced these problems, the administration is completely corrupt. They're completely colonized. They don't change so fast. But then we have stalwarts like these people who, within the given constraints, they did whatever they could. Fantastic. Yeah. Rao Kuldeep ji, please go ahead. Yeah.
Sir, thank you for allowing me. Namaskar, Shinde sir.
नमस्कार।
जब सर आपकी बातों को सुनते हैं या इस तरह की चीजों को, पुरातत्व के बातों को पढ़ते हैं या सुनते हैं, तो एक गौरव का अनुभव होता है कि हमारा विरसा क्या है, हमारी विरासत क्या है, हमारी संस्कृति कहाँ से आती है। पर मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि पुरातत्व का ज्यादातर जो चर्चा होता है वो विद्वानों के बीच में ही, ऐसे बड़े बड़े सेमिनार्स में ही होता है। 15-16 साल का हाई स्कूल का विद्यार्थी पुरातत्व में रुचि ले और उसी आयु में वो अपने इस संस्कृति को, राष्ट्र के गौरव को महसूस करके गौरवान्वित अनुभव कर सके और उसके बाद आगे वो अपनी पढ़ाई उस दिशा में आगे ले जा सके, इसके लिए क्या कुछ किया जा सकता है?
नहीं, इसके लिए हम लोग ये कर रहे हैं कि अभी हमने बोला कि ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम हम ये कर रहे हैं, ऑर्गेनाइज कर रहे हैं। तो ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम के इसमें हम जो हमारे इस सब्जेक्ट के स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनको तो एक अलग सा करेंगे, और जो इसमें इंटरेस्टेड है उसको भी हम अलग सा कर रहे हैं
सर।
और हमेशा जब हम एक्सकर्शन करते हैं या कोई भी रिसर्च करते हैं तो वहाँ के जो स्कूल्स है, वहाँ के जो कॉलेजेस है, उनको हम इनवाइट करते हैं, उनको हम प्रॉपरली उनको गाइड करते हैं। तो इसलिए हम कुछ साइट्स को हम डेवलप करना चाहते हैं। जैसे राखीगढ़ी साइट है, अगर उसको हम डेवलप करेंगे तो वहाँ कोई भी स्टूडेंट जा सकता है, कॉमन मैन जा सकता है और वहाँ देख सकता है कि हमारी विरासत क्या है। और एक्चुअली जो हम किसी और इसके ऊपर विश्वास नहीं करना चाहिए, जो एक्चुअल डेटा है उसके ऊपर वो विश्वास करना चाहिए
सर।
तो ये कोशिश तो होगी ही हमारी तरफ से।
थैंक यू सर। एक सुझाव भी है कि जहां भी ये ऐसी हमारी साइट है वहां पर अगर इस तरह का भी डिस्प्ले किया जाए कि हम जब यहाँ हिंदुस्तान, हमारा भारत ऐसा था, तब दुनिया के बाकी लोग जो आज बहुत आगे कहे जाते हैं उनकी स्थिति क्या थी जब हम ऐसे थे। हर एक पुरातत्व की साइट पे ऐसा अगर डिस्प्ले किया जा सके तो बहुत अच्छा होगा सर।
श्योर, धन्यवाद, थैंक यू, वेरी गुड सजेशन।
कुलदीप जी, मैंने आपको दिखाया राखीगढ़ी का आज का हालत क्या है, इतना बुरी हाल में पड़ी है। तो बहुत दूर दूर की बात है, हम जो चाहते हैं वो ग्राउंड लेवल पे ऐसा नहीं है। आर्कियोलॉजी और म्यूजियम्स ये सब बकवास चीजें ऐसे सोचते हैं हमारी बाबू लोग जो दिल्ली में बैठे हैं। तो ठीक है ना,
सर,
बहुत
वो मैं
दूर की बात
सुना
है।
आपकी शिकायत पहले, और आपकी ये भी शिकायत थी कि दिल्ली, हरियाणा, राजस्थान से, मैं हरियाणा को बिलोंग करता हूँ, अभी भोपाल में हूँ पिछले 25 साल से। ये वाकई जो अगर बाबुओं के ही भरोसे हिंदुस्तान चलेगा जैसा कि अभी तक चलता आ रहा है तो हमारी इन बातों का कोई मतलब नहीं निकलेगा। लेकिन हमें इन बाबुओं के जंजाल से आगे निकल के जाना तो पड़ेगा सर।
बिल्कुल। अभी चित्राली जी का तो आप सुना है, उनका तो वहाँ नॉर्थ ईस्ट में कोई इन्वेस्टिगेशन
कुछ
किया
काम ही नहीं हुआ। नॉर्थ ईस्ट को तो यहाँ आके कहते हैं कि वो एक अलग ही दुनिया में। गया हूँ आसाम और वहाँ पर
चीनी लोग बोलते हैं उनको, तो ये
तो यहाँ वाले लोग वो भी कहते हैं कि मेनलैंड से, तुम लोग मेनलैंड से। और हमने उनको ज्यादा उपेक्षित रखा, जैसा कि आप पिछली सरकारों पे आक्षेप कर भी रहे थे कि वो तो देने को ही तैयार थे पाकिस्तान को, के वो तो ठीक है
सर। ये तो चर्चा बहुत आगे चलेगी।
हाँ, वो दुखित, बहुत दुखते
छोड़ देंगे उसको, वहाँ छोड़ेंगे। थैंक यू।
जी हाँ, धन्यवाद सर।
थैंक यू। कृष्णन जी, प्लीज गो अहेड सर।
Namaste, Shinde ji. I have become a very big fan of yours. I watched a few YouTube sessions, and my question is, this has really fired me up in terms of being proud of our own culture. And what my question, I have two questions. First question is, what are we doing to see? It's one thing to inspire students, in the sense students of the subject and the older students, but what are we doing to inspire school children, like the younger children who in future are going to be the future citizens, and conducting road shows and conducting seminars across the country? That is one. And the other is, I was also watching Professor S.R. Rao's interview the other day, and I was fascinated by his discovery of the lost city of Dwarka. And so how does Dwarka figure in with the Vedic civilization? Or is there a connection, or where does that figure in the whole equation?
See, Ashwin, firstly, about the outreach program, I think, we are making a lot of efforts. We are organizing, periodically these, heritage walks also in different places. And, wherever we do the research, like, excavation activity, etc., there, we make sure that we go to the schools. In fact, some of our students, go to the school. They get, deliver lectures, and they can tell them the importance of, the work that we are doing, the importance of the cultures that, we had. And then, the students are also invited to, see actually what we are doing. So a lot of students, they show interest and they come and participate in this type of excavation also. There are a lot of students, who are doing maybe their, maybe 10th or 12th. They write to us, and then we, allow them to come and participate in our work also. So that is, slowly and surely, we are doing on this, and we are hopeful that, we will be able to, take the subject to almost every home. That is really required for this country.
Yeah.
And what was your other question?
Dwarka.
Yeah, Dwarka. Dwarka. In fact, the date of Dwarka is much later compared to the Harappans. There is a maybe gap of nearly 2,000 years. Dwarka flourished around maybe 3rd century BC, not before that. And the Harappans, they maybe stopped around 2000, 1900 BC. So there is a lot of gap. So we don't find any connection between Dwarka and this Harappan or the Vedic civilization so far. But we are working in that area. So let's see. In future we might get some evidence which can throw some light on this part.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, my own take on this. I think the Dwarka, Bed Dwarka excavation, I think it is dated 1000 BC or something like that.
1200 BC.
1200 BC, yeah, 1200 BC. Whereas Mahabharat is, largely people believe that it happened 3000 BC or whatever. 3000, some people have 2000 BC. Different dates are being given to it.
There are different dates, exactly, yes.
Different dates. So point is, I think some evidence in the Mahabharata text itself, where Bhagavan Krishna, not by the way, not Lord Krishna, Bhagavan Krishna, he's supposed to have come in the dream of Arjuna and tells him that Dwarka will sink. And after that, it will again rise up. And again, it will be flooded. So final flooding will happen a third time, and it will be flooded for good. So he seems to have indicated 3 times of the sinking of the Dwarka island. So, this is hope against hope. But I believe what we have excavated is the third Dwarka, not the Krishna's Dwarka. Probably you dig deeper, go far, much, much deeper. Probably we'll get the Harappan Dwarka. Because,
that is
because the water table itself across Indian shelf would have gone down a few centuries before that. So
right.
I think marine archaeology, what we have checked is only the surface level area. We have not dug deep trenches there, and we have not gone deeper to find out were there any earlier settlements in Dwarka, undersea excavation. That's my feeling, sir. What do you say?
Yeah, in case of Dwarka, Dwarka is right on the sea coast. Yeah. And we have the records that the sea keeps fluctuating. In fact, at some stage, sea was down, then at some stage maybe it came up. So that time, some part of the city got submerged. Certainly, that is true, of course. Whether it can be related to the Krishna's maybe philosophy or not, that is different thing. But that phenomena is certainly noticed. And certainly the problem with Dwarka is that there is not much area available for the excavation, because the entire town is sitting on the top of the ancient site. And you're right, then earlier underwater work was not really that serious. In fact, maybe we need to do that work again, and let's find out. The problem in that area is that sea is very, very rough there, and also the visibility is very, very low there. In fact, therefore the underwater is not that successful in that part.
Yeah.
But with maybe latest equipments, maybe we can try that again. And we are working with the this underwater archaeology wing of the National Institute of Oceanography. Yeah. So hopefully in future, in fact, something will emerge from this.
Yeah, because now you're part of the Maritime Heritage Complex also.
Yes, yes.
You know, probably, you know, you need to probably request for additional funding to go dig deeper in whatever place we have to look at
Right,
earlier settlements.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just a hope, sir. It's a request.
Let's hope, right.
Yeah, true. Rajesh Kaulji, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. It's been a great privilege to listen to all the knowledgeable person in the forum. Really, this initiative is something praiseworthy. I am also an inquisitive student, so as to say. A couple of points I heard some of my members speak about is like for the recent one about Dwarika. I happen to remember. Yes, there have been clips and photographs which have been done of the deep excavation of the sea, and there have been findings of the temples under the sea water, and probably Mr. Shinde has already ascertained that, right?
No, there are no temples.
We have access to that.
No, there are no temples, sir. There are no temples in that excavation. There are no temples in that excavation.
Out there, I would like to add that out there, they have also found a Sannipatul. Sannipatul is something which is a symbol of Ganesha and Shiva, which we also pray as Kashmiri Pandits during Shivratri Puja, to start with. Even those have been found, and this I have personally seen in one program years back about the Dwarika, lying under the sea. My question precisely was basically a bit wider in perspective. That I am, going through when I connect the dots of our Vedic civilization and things, and successive. Right from the establishment of the cosmos to Saptarishi, Milky Way, and then I've seen a couple of programs which Discovery has done. I think we should have access to those, or maybe sort of have an alliance, wherein they have done some wonderful programs of even having established and even remarked that probably Indians or the Hindus had the direct knowledge transfer from the gods on earth. Be it Viman Shastra, be it a number of things. They also did one program wherein they showed that each country today, on the earth, they had at one point of time temples. They had at one point of time, which established the fact that at one point of time, in the
Rajesh
entire
ji,
earth, the only faith was Hinduism.
Rajesh ji, you need to be, I think, let's not get into
precise.
A long, just close it. What is your question? And then we'll close it there.
Yeah, my question is, in that very perspective, I believe that Hinduism and Civilization is the oldest.
Okay.
But Europeans relate themselves to Greek and Egyptian philosophy. They feel that we are derivative of that. How can we establish that even the Greek and the Egyptians also derived from the Vedic civilization?
Fine, fair enough. So the timing of all these things, and whether Indian civilization is that ancient or whatever, we'll leave it. Shinde ji, please go ahead, sir.
This Vedic civilization is very old, of course, and it cannot be really compared, or we cannot really believe that that certain things have been derived from maybe Christianism or other. On the contrary, maybe a lot of elements were developed here, in fact, during the Harappan times. And later, this, the...
I think you muted yourself, sir. Shinde ji, you have to unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself, sir. By mistake, I think you muted yourself. Yeah, now you're fine.
So it is very, very difficult to answer this type of question, because we do not have any evidence for that, of course.
Yeah, no, but one question that he raised, which this is a common misbelief. After S.R. Raoji's excavation, they said Dwarka is found, Krishna is found, Mahabharata is found. This is a kind of a narrative that goes, and there are lots of videos where they show temples under the water. YouTube videos are full of it, and people really believe that temples are found. To the extent I studied, there are no temples found there. There were some human structures, settlement structures are there, but there is zero temple evidence in the Dwarka site. I mean, sorry, under the water. I'm talking about under the water.
No.
These are
all doctored. These are all doctored in fact. They're created in fact.
They are all doctored in, right? Yeah. And the earliest evidence, again, this is a big topic. I don't know, a lot of controversy around it. The earliest temples that I have known of were probably 300 or 400 BC. Sorry, 300, 400 BC, not beyond that. Pardon?
No, 300 BC, yes.
Yeah, before 300 BC, we didn't have temples at all.
No.
Absolutely, yeah. So, Rajeshji, the point is there were no temples before. We were not Murti Pujans. Like you Kashmiri Pandits, you do Havan. We were all Agni Pujas. Every work used to happen on the Agni, which the culture which you guys are still following it. Kashmiri Pandits still follow that. But whereas slowly people have shifted to temple worship later on. So there is no evidence of temples before 300. Might have been here and there a small one, but temple culture didn't exist before 300 BC. And I'm thankful Shindeji confirmed that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Sachin Gupta ji.
Namaskar Shindeji. Dhanyavad. I am listening to you live after more than 2 years.
Right, I know.
Basically,
there is an echo coming in, Sachinji. You need to check. There's some echo coming in.
I have a doubt and question regarding basically the dating and the chronology of what you presented. One is that you mentioned Tilak 6000 BC. He dated that on the basis of astronomical data. Then there you mentioned there are sites like Mehergarh, Lahore Deva where agriculture and the sites are 7000 BCE, 9000 BP. So from Virana, Lahore Deva and their whole Indus, Saraswati, Ganga, Vindhya region, agriculture and the sites are present more than 7000 BCE where agriculture is present. So you, but you mentioned 1000 BC cannot be the Veda of Vedic age because we don't find the three Pura kind of a three-tier city, middle, upper, lower city. Probably we have all this information in Vedic times concept which came up in material form maybe between 3000 to 2000 BCE. Why I say this? Because again from the Saraswati in Vedic time is Ambi Tame, Devi Tame, Nadi Tame. It's a mighty river, but during this 3000 to 2000 BC, it was a much reduced stream. And in Balrama's pilgrimage, according to traditional chronology, when he's making a pilgrimage, already Saraswati is drying at many places, including Vinchana. So which according to traditional dating is 3100 BCE. So if during the later Vedic texts and Sutra texts, which if we can correlate, will be equivalent to the Harappan mature phase. So the 3000 to 2000 BC would be the later Vedic period of later Vedic literature, and the Sutra literature and the Vedic age will be much before. Right. Based on that, the second question, in 2001, Murli Manohar Joshi ji announced the discovery of 2 cities, and the report was published in Indian Ocean Archaeology about 7500 BCE, that is 9500 years before present, the 2 cities in Gulf of Khambar. What is your say on that? This is the second question. Thank you.
See, the second question about, this discovery of these cities underwater. Now, I was actually involved in that. In fact, later I was told to, investigate the archaeological part there. And what we noticed that, because I did, I went, down with the ship, in the ship also. What we noticed is that there are ripples of sand, and they give the impression that, it is like a city, but actually it is not a city. What we found there, in fact, were the remains of the Mesolithic phase, which is maybe the stage between hunting gathering and the agriculture stage. So maybe at that time the sea level was down, and the Mesolithic people have made some settlements on the bank, and later the sea level rose and the settlements got submerged. So that is the only evidence we are getting. And about this the earlier question, I think we need to really work. I always advocate that that there should be a multidisciplinary approach for any problem, and all this astronomical data, this archaeological data, scientific data, that needs to be really combined, and where it is leading to us. In fact, that needs to be found out really. So that type of efforts are being made now, and we are trying to produce really scientific data so that there is no ambiguity at all. So this is a beginning in that respect, and I'm sure that we'll be able to do that.
Okay.
So Sachinji, thank you, and I was so happy to see you after long.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now we'll go to where is he? I don't find him. Yeah, 1 second, sir. Yeah. Abhinandan Reddy ji, please go ahead, sir.
Sir, good evening.
Good evening.
Sir, I wanted to ask you regarding whatever terracotta pots and pottery that have been excavated, have they faded once they were removed? By coming in contact with oxygen and all, have they faded? In this, I'm asking in relation to what I've noticed at Xi'an, where they excavated terracotta warriors. What happened there is, as they removed about 50-100 warriors, in about a day or 2 or 3 days, all the color started, because they're all taken from vegetable dyes, the color started going away. So what they have done is they have excavated their huge life-size horses and warriors with the full armor and everything, hundreds and thousands of them. Part of them they excavated, part of them they have still got buried because they don't want to excavate them because they don't know how to retain the vegetable dyes. And these are there on, they have, they're there in colored this thing, which we have seen, but it's not there. When you look at it, they're all faded now. It's all in terracotta now. So like that, in Harappan excavations, have you got colored pots and everything when you excavated and they faded away after some time, or any such things have happened? That was, terracotta warriors was excavated in 1974, and it was about 2,000 years old. Yeah, thank you.
Now, in case of Harappans, they have produced really very beautiful painted pottery. And the technique that they used was really very unique, because of which the pottery has survived without any fading till this day. What they did, they used basically the rock colors firstly. And then, the pottery was painted before the pottery was fired in the kiln. And after firing, these colors have remained permanent. And even after 5,000 years, they have not been faded. And they're really looking, that good. In case of the, these terracotta warriors in China, they were, first fired, and then, of course, they were, painted. So that secondary paint, tends to peel off. So that is not the case with the Harappan pottery. In fact, it is a different technique that the Harappans use, because of which the pottery is so beautifully survived intact without any fading.
Yeah, I'm holding it up. 3,000 years not faded.
Yeah, I see that. Yes.
I'm holding it up. Yeah, I have a few collections on it actually. Yeah. Anyway, nothing is faded. They're all there. Okay. Thank you, sir. Next is Anand. Please go ahead. Yeah. Hello. Friends, I think we have Anand. Just hold a second. Friends, whoever is going to ask, I think we have taken a lot of time. I would request all of you to kindly be
They can write to me also. They can
write. Yeah. Later, in a detailed way, you can contact Shinde ji for this thing. But here, kindly be brief. Yeah, that's my humble request. Yeah, Anand, did I unmute you? Yeah, Anand, please go ahead. Yeah.
Shat Koti Pranam Shinde ji. And this is despite this, your work comes in the background of, these classical Indologists, and it has gained, so it clearly says truth prevails, and that's a beautiful thing, that's come out. So my question is, why don't we have a dedicated journal or a publication exclusively on Indology, our own journal? Why? Because the NCERT texts often cite references of these colonial Indologists and use them as evidence, and propagate it. So so publication is probably we need to publish in the right or use the right references for our NCERT books or whatever. So what is happening is we have to face generation after generation of people brought up on this kind of evidences and or the kind of facts that are given to our younger generation. So
sure.
you're always facing an opposition. So why can't we do a journal?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Anand. Yeah.
See, the most of the information, of course, we have some good journals also in India, but this information that is published in the journals, they remain confined to only scholarly people only. And what is my take is that unless we bring this new information in the textbook, in the school textbook, college textbook, the people are not going to be aware about this. So that should be really made available through the textbook only. And I don't think that common people will read the specialized journals. So we need to make efforts in getting this information in the textbook. That is very important.
Thank you, sir. Friends, those of you who have requested to ask question, I would request you to kindly switch on your cameras also. So, sometimes there were some issues where people had some other name, but then, the people who came were, some kind of troublemakers. So we have some problems. So some of the names which I'm not aware, I would request you to kindly switch on your camera. Up now? 5-10 minutes, sir. Just 5-10 minutes will wind up.
Yeah, because I have to make some important calls also.
I can understand. Manohar Bideji, please go ahead, sir.
Sir, namaskar. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No, I have read 7 volumes of Saraswati written by Dr. Kalyan Raman, and one volume is totally devoted for correlating the words of the Indian tribals, Mundas and Santals and South Indians tribals to the inscriptions or the representations in the Sindhu seals. And they have said that this was the rebus method, R-E-B-U-S. This is a Greek word, but the word looks to be an Indian word, rava. Rava means sounding. So those, and this method is still useful while contacting between the two sets of the people don't having the common language. So that was the rebus method. So has the Deccan College made any studies over this Kalyan Raman's volume 2nd? Thank you.
No, we have not really studied them, but we have recently got the books, and our people from Sanskrit department, they are working on this particular issue now. So maybe shortly, we'll be able to give our opinion on that.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Panindarji.
Hello. Namaste, sir. Namaste, sir. Hello.
Namaste.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Sir, can you please throw some light for us on Ramasetu, sir?
No, Ramasetu, frankly, I know I have not really worked on that. But a lot of my colleagues believe that, it is a man-made. When it was made, that is not clear, of course. But it is a man-made. That is what, most of my colleagues believe. But I have not really visited that place, so that I cannot really make any comment on that, really.
Sir, any book is there on from
one of my colleagues, one of my colleagues from this National Institute of Oceanography, one Rajiv Nigam. Now he has worked on that, and he believes that it is dated to around 3500 BC.
Sir.
That is the only information I have, really.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, but that's the sad part. Government of India has not really invested in a lot of research on this. We have a problem. Next is Ramji. Please go ahead. I think you raised a lot of questions on the chat box. Yeah, but you are not switched on your camera, sir. I requested you to switch on your camera.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. My questions, I have 4 questions which I have expressed in the chat window. because data rate is very slow, I'm switching off my.
Fair enough. Fair
so
enough.
that
Can
it
you
will
be
not break.
quick, sir?
Yeah.
Can you just be quick on all the
Yeah.
yeah.
So my first question, did we find any metals in Rakhigarhi excavation? That is my first question.
We get a
Second
lot
question.
of copper metals.
No iron?
Iron age was not, Iron age comes much later. In fact, this is a copper or the bronze age period.
Okay, because there was one paper by Oceanographic Institute in Goa, where they have found a iron hook in Gujarat coast, I think in Dwarka only, and they have dated it. That date is coming closer to Harappan, whatever Harappan dates ASI is expecting. So you are seeing the classical, yeah.
That is much
Sorry,
later,
sir?
in fact. That is much later. It is not, coming close to the Harappan at all. At Dwarka, that is dated to around 300 BC. Whereas we are talking about 3000 BC. That time the iron was not there at all.
Okay, fair enough. I will switch to this other question. We traditionally graffiti on potters, so it's called potter's mark. So that is not a legible text. Have you found any legible longer text on pots? And also, did we find any tablets? Because in Iran and Iraq, especially in Syria, they have clay tablets. And why are we missing that in Harappan sites?
Sir, you muted yourself, sir. Shinde sir.
No.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, see, we have some written records, of course, on some maybe terracotta and stone. But I believe that the Harappans may also have written a lot on the maybe perishable material, which is not really preserved at all. But it is also true that now so far we have not really found long inscriptions in the Harappan period, and therefore there are some scholars who believe that this may not be on the script at all. But it is now proved by the scientists from TIFR. They have not really deciphered this, but they have certainly come to the conclusion that this is a writing system that the Harappans had developed. But we are unfortunately not finding much evidence about the writing system.
Okay. Did we find any graffiti on the walls? Because you have discovered walls, the fort walls.
No. Because the walls are made of sometimes at Rakhigarhi it is made of this unbaked bricks only. And maybe they were plastered. So maybe the plaster is gone. So if there was some graffiti on the plaster, we don't know really.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, because in Dholavira, it was a stone.
Dholavira also was plastered ultimately. There are traces of plaster at many places. So over the stone also there was a plaster. So we don't know what was on the plaster, whether they have made some maybe motifs, maybe some graffiti marks. That is not really clear.
Okay, sure. Thanks, sir. Thank you. Kausiki ji, go ahead. Yeah. I request you to again. If you can switch on your camera, that will be great.
I do not have required bandwidth, so if you can.
Is it?
Please bear.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Namaste all. Shinde ji, it's very interesting to know about the water management technology of the Harappans. You mentioned that it could convert a desert into a green land.
Yes.
Interestingly, we come to know from the study of Professor Aryan Iyengar.
Yeah, right.
Wherein he studies the references to the landforms and fauna, especially the Irina, Vedic Irina, the word Irina, which is described as a water form in early Vedic literature, and in later Vedic and Shrauta and Ramayana, Itihasa literature, it is described as a desert. Earlier, Irina, now Professor Aryan Iyengar tries to trace Irina located in around close to Run of Kutch.
Okay. So there is a lot of reference, in fact, in our text also. But this is the evidence, which is actually there, in fact, which we have excavated. So that evidence, is very, very important. Sometimes, we cannot use the textual data because there is a problem of dating also. But
that's exactly my question. What is the problem? Like how these references and to the changing landforms would help in arriving at absolute chronology? I mean, what are the problems? What do you think are the problems?
The problem is that nowhere the date is mentioned, in fact, in the text at all. But there's a lot of description. So what we are doing now, on the basis of description, we are trying to, understand what is the corresponding maybe archaeological evidence and other evidences. And with the help of that, we are trying to do that. For example, river Saraswati is mentioned. And it is also mentioned that the river goes dry or it disappears. So we have no way to understand, when this particular event happened. But here, we have used the archaeological data to understand the event. We are getting maybe early Harappan sites and, maybe sites of the Harappan civilization. But after 1900 BC, those sites are going away from the river bank. So that gives us clue that perhaps, after 1900 BC, the river is not significant as it was earlier. So that means the river has started maybe drying up or disappearing. So this is how, we are trying to, relate now and trying to get the date of the, different events mentioned in the text.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Kaushiki ji. And friends, whoever is left, I would request you to make it very fast. We need to rush through because Shinde ji has another calls to attend. So I would request the rest of you to be extremely brief. Please do not give any explanation. Just ask a question. Yeah, they can. Sir, you can share your email ID that we can,
Yeah. Please share my email ID. Yes.
Yeah, Dheeraj, you can type it out. Then we can take it up. Yeah. Om Wadala Patla. Please go ahead. Sir, make it fast.
Thank you, Shinde ji, for your presentation. My question is three parts. First is about decolonizing anthropology in India. What are the current efforts that are being done in decolonizing it? And second, in the same light, is what methods of inquiries are followed? If you follow the scientific method of inquiry, which is hypothetical-deductive reasoning, are you also employing the Darshanik method in your research? And the third is how is the BMAC complex challenge posed by the Western research wing presented for you when you do out of India theory research and how they correlate? Three-point questions.
No, as far as decolonization is concerned, I think a lot of anthropologists are working on this particular issue. Perhaps you can refer some of the writings of the anthropologists. We have done a lot of work on this particular part, and this the research methodology that we are doing. Of course, we first formulate the hypothesis, of course, and then we look for the evidence, and if the evidence is supporting the hypothesis, then we make our conclusions on the basis of that. So it is not that only archaeologists are working, but it is a multidisciplinary team which is working at every site. So we are getting a lot of scientific data which needs to be analyzed. That is done. And finally, the BMAC. In fact, earlier it was thought that BMAC influence starts coming to Indian subcontinent maybe around 1800, 1900 BC. But actually, it is the other way around. In fact, at the site of Giloon, which is in Mewat region of Rajasthan, we have excavated some motifs, which are exactly similar motifs have been reported from BMAC region. So our hypothesis that maybe the influence started going from India to BMAC first, and then maybe there is a reciprocal movement happening, and exactly that kind of evidence is getting now in the DNA studies also.
So this last part that you just explained, can you provide me the references, or at least to
Yeah, of course. You take my email. I will send you the publication that we have made on this.
Yeah, we have just shared the email ID on the chat box. People can pick up Shinde Saab's email ID. We have just shared it.
There's a very large group in the American University block which are opposed to out of India theory.
Yeah, thank you.
And we need to counter that.
Yeah, sure. We need to generate more data, of course. Right. This is just an indication that we are getting, of course.
Right, sure. Thank you. Ravindra Panditaji, go ahead, sir.
Deji, namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar.
Very nice to listen to you again, sir. I heard you last year in the Saraswati Civilization program here in Delhi.
Okay, okay.
And how well you have contested those leftist historians, particularly that lady I would not like to name, by scientific evidences. I have 2 or 3 addendums, sir, to what I heard in the talk. As a civil engineer, I see, sir, what is the role of the caves in these civilizations? Like you described Tigris, Mesopotamia, and you described Mohenjo-daro also. But these are our plains like satellite towns.
Yeah,
now,
right.
Caves do have a role. Number 2, sir, about the genes part, database. We still have in Sindhu civilization, sub-civilization in Ladakh area, we still have Aryans. We call them Aryans. So we need to have a broad base whether this Aryan theory and all that is compatible to be contested. Number 3rd and the last point, sir, when we talk about the universities which have come up in the later stage, we are missing out, sir. Sharda University, I feel discouraged. Nalanda and Taxila, you people, everyone names, but Sharda, you people miss. Tamil Lipi, you miss Sharda Lipi also in that. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you. No, but there is in North India, there are a lot of people from maybe steppe region, from Iran. They have moved, in fact, because for the trade purpose long back, and they have settled there, and there we get slightly different appearance in that part.
Yeah, but I think basically that's a different faculty altogether. The DNA mapping of India, some other teams are doing actually.
Yeah.
But essentially Shinde Saab is a archaeologist, so archaeological sites probably that is a different thing altogether. Next is, I think we have to close now urgently. Bhaskarji, please go ahead. Make it fast, sir. Make it fast.
Namaskar ji, my question is regarding Aryan invasion, and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Swami Vivekananda denied this Aryan invasion, and this Arya is Gunavachna, it's not Jativachka, Ambedkar told. And recently some scientific innovation, scientific discoveries also told that Aryan invasion is a myth and Aryan David is having same DNA. My question is how to include this concept in the textbooks, especially in the high school social studies, and what is our concrete plan which we are going to do to include this topic in our high school social history textbooks? That is my question.
Thank you.
See, now what we are approaching the government, of course. The new data that we are generating, that should find place in the textbook, and the textbook needs to be needs to present the actual or the true picture. So our effort is that where in the textbook committee there should be experts. In fact, subject expert people also in that. So far, it was not happening. But unless the subject experts are consulted and included in the team, we are not going to really get the change in the textbook. So that needs to happen, and we are making efforts in that direction now.
Okay. Yeah, and the last question, Gauri Shankarji. Yeah. And please make it fast, sir.
Hello?
We're shutting it down. Yeah, please make it fast, sir. We're shutting it down. Yeah.
Sir, are you hearing me, sir?
We can, yes.
Yeah. So actually, I'm having a doubt, sir. And the thing is, you are telling that before for 6000 BC, there is no agriculture in India. But according to the History Channel is concerned, that this Dwarka civilization is 25,000 BC. So what is why this much disparity between your theory and that particular the theory of History Channel? That is my question.
Okay.
See, my theory is based on the actual data that we have generated, the archaeological data. And the archaeological data clearly indicates that the agriculture began around 7000 BC, 9000 or maybe maximum 10,000 years ago, not before that. And we know that what is the evidence before that also. We are getting the evidence of the pure hunter-gathering stage before 9,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is based on the actual data that we have generated. And ultimately, this, if you are to convince the people, you have to show the data. Without that, people are not going to get convinced.
Yeah. I think it is, I mean, a lot of nonsense goes on in a lot of media, 25,000 years, nothing unscientific. But people, their jingoism is such that, somehow some lakhs of years Rama existed, lakhs of years Mahabharat happened. And so
Right.
when somebody like that do something, they get sold off. And the immediate thing will be attack on people like you, that you don't know your archaeology, science has not evolved, you don't know, that kind of a stuff. But we can't do anything about it. In a scientific environment, the evidence, what it shows, I think we need to respect it. We cannot deny it. And the kind of work that Shinde Saab you have done is really phenomenal, marvelous, and really wonderful. Definitely we'll find answers within the realm of your discovery to each of these questions. The problem is we've already fixed in our brain that, it has to be like what B.R. Chopra showed. If you produce an evidence which is not contrary to B.R. Chopra, then you're wrong. B.R. Chopra cannot be wrong. So, I'm sorry. That's the way people look at it. But we need to respect the science, scientific discoveries, and that's the way to go. And we are really proud of you, sir. And thank you so much for sparing your time and then at a very short notice, and then doing a wonderful talk, and then patiently listening to so many people and answering so many questions. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure, and we are honored to have you on board. And as are we honored to have Sudarshan uncle, come in and speak a bit. So thanks a lot. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for organizing this. I thank you and also Sudarshan Raoji for being present there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. And, we hope to continue these kinds of series in the future also.
Thank you very much.
We'll have Shinde Saab but some other day, on some other topic. Thank you all.
Sure.
Namaste. Bharat Mata ki jai.
Namaste.